This episode of Super Boothers is brought to you by Photo Booth Startup, giving you the ultimate photo booth at an affordable price. Specializing in ring light booths, whether you're just starting out or adding some to your fleet, Photo Booth Startup can help. Visit their website at photoboothstartup.com. Hello, welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail, and I am excited for today's chat. We're going to be discussing Facebook and Instagram ads and how you can use their platform to get more bookings. And we are very lucky to be joined by John Vogel from 215 Marketing. John, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What's going on, guys?
Oh, nothing. Just a little Black Friday shopping.
Buy anything exciting?
Everything. Yes, I bought it all. I was actually I was a little bit depressed that Amazon really doesn't have like anything photo related on sale. Like I checked like ice lights, I checked memory cards, nothing was on sale. It's like, what's the point? This is like a high holiday.
The deal of the day yesterday, I think, was a memory card.
Well, I was at the casino, so that's probably why I missed that one.
It happens.
Just for some background for our listeners, it may sound familiar, 215 Marketing. A lot of us listened to the episode we did recently about Google Ads with Garrett. Garrett and John are partners at 215 Marketing. And as we mentioned before, they have these high-end clients and they manage millions of dollars a year in ad spend for them, known brands like AWeber. And the successful course that we did before with Google Ads was so popular, people wanted another one. And the next thing people asked was for Facebook and Instagram. So when I approached Garrett about doing something for that, Garrett was like, no, that's not me. You want to talk to John. So John was kind enough to help us put that together. And I think a couple interesting things about John is that, John, I believe you teach this subject at a university in addition to doing it for your job. And you also had experience in the event rental business like Garrett did with the character rentals. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So as Garrett mentioned on his podcast, we worked with an organization, Party Princess Productions, who did character rentals all over the nation. I think they were up to, I want to say 18 or 19 franchises. So, we helped them with everything, obviously on the Google side of things, but also with their display advertising for Facebook and Instagram. So, we did a lot of different things with them to drive new business, to help nurture qualified prospects to close. And, it was very eventful in the sense that we had a really good idea of who we wanted to go after. And then, as you know, we're very data driven. We were surprised to see who was actually interested in booking parties for event characters. So it was a really good learning experience and it was a very successful campaign. And, we were fortunate enough to have that opportunity. And then on the academic side of things, I've been teaching social media marketing at Rowan University in New Jersey for almost 3 years now. It was actually pretty exciting. I did my undergraduate studies there before I got my MBA, and the dean of the College of Business asked me to come back and essentially write my own course for social media marketing. So I help, junior and senior level students understand from, conceptualization through creation, how do you approach digital advertising and social media marketing in general? And then I really focus actually specifically on Facebook and Instagram advertising, display ads, video ads, creating remarketing advertisements. A lot of what I went over in
Excuse me, Professor Vogel, I have a quick question. Who uses Facebook? Like, is it older people, and am I in that demographic? Because that's what I use now. Like, how does it work?
I mean, use is all relative, right? I mean, who is on Facebook the most? Who clicks on things? Who buys items?
Like age is what I'm getting at.
So, I mean, ages, it was always, Gen X and millennials until the last few years where millennials and Gen X use it equally to baby boomers. So the data pretty much is saying now baby boomers have gotten on and engaged and adopted the platform at an alarming rate in a positive way over the last 5 to 6 years.
My mother is
Instagram's
alarming.
Usage,
she should not be on Facebook.
Does she comment all of your stuff? Because that's what my entire
I'm so
Irish
horrible. I am so horrible. I have my mother blocked. She can only see my public stuff. That's so horrible.
That's a great idea, and I might adopt that. I might even add that into my curriculum. I might write a whole class, how to block your relatives.
No, but it's artful in how you do it, because you have to like create like a separate group and then only like release stuff to those people.
Yeah, I actually considered making a fake Facebook profile to friend my family just to, lead them off the trail. But I didn't get to that yet. I was with them all yesterday for Thanksgiving, so I don't know.
So I know this is a little off topic, but what age group like uses Snapchat? Like, I'm just trying to like see like on the spectrum here where things kind of fall.
Snapchat, the average age of engagement, I want to say is between last time I was reading at the beginning of this year was between 18 and 23. That was the majority of its engagement, and I think that stemmed directly from advertising dollars based on clicks. So most people that are most likely to use it and engage it the most it was late teens, early 20s. So think late high school, early college, early grad school demographics.
So I am too old for Snapchat.
You're never too old for Snapchat,
Ryan. Now, John, you mentioned when you were speaking earlier about how you guys are very data-driven, and that's something that I realize when you speak to digital marketers, that the best ones do focus on the data. When we talk to boothers or other business owners, the common thing that seems to happen is that people assume things about their customers without really testing it. And you mentioned when you had that character rental business that you were working with, there were some things that you found out that you didn't expect. What do you have to say about assumptions people make before they actually test things? And like, how should people think about that?
I think the reality of it is whether you're a digital marketer that's been in an industry for 20 years or whether you're somebody starting out as a lean entrepreneur and you're trying to generate business, you don't know what you don't know. You can make assumptions, and unless you have a statistically significant amount of data and you can run a regression to prove it, you really don't know. So expect the unexpected is always a good rule, especially in passive advertising, which really what Facebook and Instagram advertising is. Unlike Google, where you're going after what we would call active search, on Google, people are demonstrating their intent and their interest. If I type in photo booth rental company near me for hire, you know exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And it's pretty straightforward, right? I'm not going to type that phrase in if I'm trying to watch the new Lion King trailer. It's not going to happen. However, on the Facebook and Instagram side of things, we can't go after people based on what they do from a search intent. We have to go after people based on who they are, what they're potentially interested in, what life events they've got going on, where they geographically live, what is their age. And it's exciting and it's challenging. And the reason specifically on Facebook that data is so important is you really don't know until you know. And even when running campaigns, for photo booth companies, it's very interesting. I'd talk to a client and they would say, oh, our demographic is primarily males between the age of 30 to 40 that are booking for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then, 2.5 months into their campaign, 85% of the people that filled out lead forms that became clients were females between the age of 23 and 29. Not even close. But that is the good thing about data is that it's okay to be wrong as long as you're making money and generating qualified leads.
That active passive split that you mentioned is a key thing, and that's honestly why I prioritize going after Google Ads first in my business, because I thought it seems wiser to go after the active market first. But it's also interesting that the platform of Instagram in particular seems to fit really well with our businesses because we're like a photo centric business. Is there anything about that like, is it the same between Facebook and Instagram? Even though you can do the display ads on Google, it seems to be really something that is special to Instagram, the centric focus on the photos. Do you think that would make a difference, or does that not really matter?
Facebook and Instagram do a much better job from a user experience standpoint, demonstrating an experience, right? So in photo booth rentals, I can quickly and easily convey right in the middle of your news feed or right after you're scrolling through pictures of your friends' kids that they post 24 times a day. You can quickly see what the photo booth experience would be like, either in a carousel format or through happy faces smiling with the backlit photo booth, right? Versus Google, it's on the side, it's a display ad that shows up somewhere on a random website. It's not so much ideal. I think the big difference between social media and search engines, just at a high level, is search engines, you're typically going on there with an objective in mind. right? So if I'm going onto Google, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm either going through and I'm searching for a product, a service, an answer, something, right? Could be a recipe. I'm not just generally browsing in a decompressed state of mind. When you go on social media, you're just there because you're either bored or you're just curious what's going on in the world. You're in a much different mindset and more likely to engage with something you weren't even aware that you were looking for. And that's something about passive advertising, specifically on social media, which I think is really creative and really cool. And I think it does make a big difference. And also why, as you pointed out before, Ismail, you should start with active search, but social media, digital advertising should also be rolled up in your integrated marketing strategy.
So what about people that have the fear that these social media platforms, or even Google itself, that I think generally when there's a new platform like the Snapchat, when you guys mentioned earlier,
Dad,
when there's a new
Snapchat. You're so hip.
I'm recently a new father, so that's
posting a million pictures of the kid.
Listen, that's what I have to do. It's
yes,
obligatory.
Thank you.
So
you'll have your payment shortly.
Just for the record.
when
looking forward to it.
When there's a new platform, right? There's something called underpriced attention, where the economics and the price per click is kind of out of whack because it's a new platform. But when you get to be as established as Facebook and Instagram, there's people that are worried about whether they can actually profit from doing advertising. A lot of people have this fear about throwing money into a black hole and they don't get any bookings out of it. How do you avoid that? And what are some advice that you have around that?
Well, the first piece of advice I would have, whether it's on social media, Google, affiliate marketing, anything, is you have to track the data and understand what's going on to calculate ROI. So you know if you're being profitable or not. This is not an exaggeration. I'd say half the people, maybe more, that we work with that go through and do advertising have no idea how much money they're making from a platform. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, can you tell me more about your profitability on Facebook? They're like, oh, we spent like $4,000 last month and we got a few leads. Well, do you know what happened with the leads? I think a few of them closed. Do you know how much money they closed for? I have no idea. So you don't know how profitable we are. No, not really, but it's working. How do you know that, right? So I think the first step is going through and putting some sort of attribution model in place to understand what's working and what isn't. But I think to the bigger point of the question is people are fearful of wasting money. If you're afraid of that, right, and you're very successful on the Google advertising side of it or search engine marketing, what you should really use Facebook and Instagram marketing for is nurturing. Because everybody, regardless of the business or company type, has prospects that have not closed because they probably weren't nurtured to. And one of the things that Facebook and Instagram do really well in a quiet and passive manner is they put your brand in front of your consumer that already visited your website, already took a certain action on your website or mobile app. If people are really hesitant about it and they really want to be conservative, that's the bare minimum. But, my advice to everybody in the Facebook and Instagram side of things is take data that you have from running your business. And even if it is who you think your client is, who has come through on Google and become your client, take any demographic data you have and try Facebook, try Instagram. Go through and get enough data back. Maybe it's a few $100s over the course of a week or two. Try it, test the waters, and see what happens. The beauty about Facebook and Instagram is you get pretty quick feedback as far as lead generation. Now, granted, sometimes leads can take longer to close than others, but relatively quickly whether it's working or not. And the other good thing about it is that you can turn it up or down very quickly. So if you're like, oh, hey, listen, I don't have the cash flow right now to keep running these ads, pause them for a few days if that's the case. Or if you run the ads for a few weeks and you're crushing it, turn it up, double it if the demand is there for the advertisement. But the biggest advice I have for anybody in any digital advertising setting is you have to try it, you have to measure it, and more importantly, you have to truly understand the return. Because you can't just say, oh, we got 10 leads. You really need to look at what happened.
For me, as someone that's very
how much money literally did they
and
make
very
you?
Conservative with my money, how that is so not the case. Yes, I just did. How much
I was like, didn't you just buy everything? And you're at
a worthwhile amount of money to start with?
So that's a great question and also an impossible question to answer, right? Because it depends on your objective. You are impossible. No. So my answer in that situation is per ad set, which an ad set in Facebook or Instagram is a specific audience targeting. So for example, an ad set could be, I want to show my ad to people that live in Mercer County, New Jersey, between the ages of 25 to 40 that make over 60 grand a year and have a college degree, right? That is one audience. So that you have an ad set that would contain ads. I would say the minimum sample size you would need to say if it's working or not is 100 clicks from the ad to your website. Now, that's probably substantial enough to know what's going to happen, because if 100 people come from that ad to your website, that's good enough. It's not perfect data. I'd like to see a little bit more, but I'd say that's a minimum threshold.
Now, John, before you were discussing about the benefits of using the social media platforms for branding, and that's something that I found pretty interesting. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but there's the ability to remarket to people that go to your website. So I'm sure everyone listening is familiar with how you're shopping for something on Amazon, you don't buy it, or you just viewed something, and then you're on Facebook, and all of a sudden a bunch of ads come up for that item, and it's kind of creepy.
Stalking you.
They're stalking you. You have the ability to do that. And what I realized when I was testing this is that people that, like even myself, if I visited my site, I saw ads from my business in Facebook and Instagram. Now, the cool thing about it is that if I don't click it, I don't pay for it. So you kind of get in front of your consumers for free. And we all know there's all these statistics out there about how you have to have multiple impressions before someone books you.
Multi-touch points, yep.
Multi-touch points. So that kind of aids in that. But I wonder, if that happens too much, does that hurt your ranking in the algorithm? Is your ad displayed less?
No, not necessarily. I mean, from a ranking standpoint, it's not like we're talking about, search engine result pages. It's not like, SEO on your website necessarily. All remarketing on, Facebook and Instagram specifically is we put a snippet of code on your website that tracks who comes there and who doesn't, right? It reports back to Facebook. We can create what's called an audience in Facebook that is website visitors in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is. And then what we can do is we can say, hey, we want to show these people that have made it to this page on your website these ads for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. There's a lot of different customizable rules. But to your point, it is the most cost-effective way to stay in front of your consumer. And I would borderline say in today's day and age, it's almost necessary in anything that has any resemblance to a long sales cycle, even if that's a week or two, to stay in front of your consumer, because you never know when they're going to be browsing Instagram or Facebook and an anniversary party or wedding or whatever it is coming down the line. It pops in their head. Oh crap, I looked at this a month ago. I forgot to call them. Let me call them right now. And the good thing with Facebook and Instagram is you can track who saw your ad, left your website, came back and saw the remarketing ad, and then came back and filled out a lead form or called your business. Remarketing ads, from a personal and a professional standpoint, are a no-brainer for almost any type of business. Whether
how much are all these Russian bots?
It doesn't really matter. It's a borderline requirement. And go ahead. The Russian bots were a big to-do on Facebook. Quick backstory is Facebook's advertising platform, 2 to 3 years ago, before the whole election and Russian crisis came down, was much more expansive than it is right now. But expansive to the point where some may have considered it invasive. But so Facebook has made a lot of changes to, I guess, temper those fears. And they took a little bit of power away from advertisers on Facebook because we don't have
what stuff is more limited now?
The amount of information we could sort by and target through, if that makes sense. But it's a lot of what I would call census-related data. So, like, I used to be able to go on lifestyle and census. So I used to be able to go on and target people based on the car they drove.
I'm a little curious as to how this kind of works.
I can't do those things
so
anymore.
You can do different ad sets per audience, correct? Okay, that's I think what I'm getting at. So my question is,
I'm not sure if you mean the literal sense or the general sense.
I did a workshop a long time ago, and we were kind of talking about how people like to see themselves reflected in advertising. So, for example, Tiffany just did, I think it was maybe like a year or two ago, their first same-sex couple ad. Is it possible to say if there is like, I'm just talking about like the creative, like let's say we're like putting like a carousel, Instagram ad or what have you. Is it a way for me to target someone that is, say, Asian or African American or Mexican or gay or whatever that case may be? Is it possible to do like different ad sets for those specific types of groups? Yeah.
Can you target them directly based on those exact, I guess I'd call a feature set that you described? No, you cannot. But you can infer things, right? So, for example, say you were selling I'll give you a great example. You're selling an online platform that helps people learn English, right? So what you could do is you could target this to geographic areas in the South and Southwest, where there's a larger Spanish-speaking environment, and show the ads only to people that have Spanish set as their primary language, right? So I'm not targeting people that are, from Latin America or South America or anything like that, but I'm targeting them based on that. And, for the photo booth side of things, when I went through and, built the ad campaigns, one of the things I looked at is I can't target people that are going to want to buy a photo booth. There's that's not a thing, right? There's no way to filter by that. But I know that, hey, if you have an anniversary coming up at some point in the next 180 days, you might be more interested in doing this. Or, hey, if you got engaged within the last year, you have a wedding to plan. You may be interested in a photo booth. So you can infer who someone is by their interest, sometimes by where they are, sometimes by the language they speak. But you can't specifically go through and target somebody based on, for example,
that's what I'm curious about. So is it discriminatory to limit someone based off of a zip code? Really?
Technically, no. So you can, and that's one of the cool things about Facebook, like many other advertising platforms. There's inclusionary and there's exclusionary targeting, and depending on what your objective is and the service and product type that you're trying to put in front of somebody, I would say about 85% of the time I wind up using both. So I'll say, listen, hey, include everybody in this zip code, but exclude people that don't make this much money, or something similar, right?
My mind is blown right now.
It's exclusionary and inclusionary targeting work very well hand in hand.
And just, I was just going to say, we're getting into the weeds here. I should have probably asked this earlier, but John, do you mind giving like a 20,000 foot explanation of how, like, for example, you talk about the importance of tracking conversions and how the ads are performing. How exactly does that work in a 101 simple explanation with a pixel and redirect, and just explain that, please?
Sure. The simplest way to say it is Facebook uses destination tracking to understand conversions. So what happens is everybody has a website and they have a lead generation form. Could be a contact us form, a book now form, a free quote form. Everybody's slightly different. What happens when somebody fills out that form is they get redirected to some URL. Maybe it's a thank you page. Who knows? It's all based on the website and CMS that they're using. So what Facebook allows you to do, and I walk through this in my presentation, is they allow you to go in and create what's called a pixel. Pixel at the end of the day is just a snippet of code that Facebook calls a pixel that you wind up putting on your website and specifically on the destination tracking page. Now, if you have a CMS, there's plugins that does this for you. And what happens when somebody comes from a Facebook or Instagram ad, they click on your website, they go to the lead form and fill it out. Facebook registers, because they made it to that thank you page, that they completed the action and came from Facebook. So they attribute it to the campaign on Facebook that the individual came from. And that is the first step of, building your attribution model. That's how you're able to go through and say, hey, look, this past week I spent $1,000 on Facebook ads and I had 11 leads. And a lead, in the way Facebook is defining it, is somebody that went through, filled out your lead form, and made it to that thank you page.
Hopefully Ryan's head is not exploded after that. But we talked about before the demographics. And a couple things I noticed that were interesting when we were setting up my campaign was that I think people have this assumption that, Facebook, Instagram is all millennials. And you had created ad sets for that demographic and other demographics. And Surprisingly,
Well, who has the money?
best performing one, at least initially, were older people. Like, it wasn't the millennials.
Correct.
Yeah, and although it might sound surprising at first, I think that exactly. I was just going to say, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. And
I think I can think of like one client under 35
users, the engaged
everyone
users
else is just older,
increasing as these younger people flock to these other platforms.
Absolutely.
So
trust me, I do.
Yep. So
follow the disposable income,
exactly,
as they say.
But
I know you do, Ryan.
But another interesting thing I noticed is that you also have the ability, and maybe John, you can explain this a little bit better. Instead of directing them away from Facebook to your website, they can actually fill in a form within the Facebook platform to generate like a lead. So I would basically get a lead submission, or they would submit a message to my Facebook page, and I would chat through Facebook with the client, right?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different options as far as the campaign types that you can create, and you just hit on two of them. I can't even get to all the campaign types Facebook offers in my 16-week course. That's 3 hours a week. But what you hit on is one of the new, more popular ad types, and it's called lead gen. And what it is the ad looks similar to how normal Facebook ads look, except when someone clicks learn more or contact you or book now or whatever it may be, it populates a lead form right on your phone or your desktop. So somebody doesn't have to leave Facebook to give you their first name, their last name, their email, maybe a note that comes with it. And when they hit submit or send, you, the client that's paying for the ad, receives that person's information and you can reach out to them. But the beauty of it for the consumer is there's no, and this sounds funny, there's no 5-second delay to get to the next website. They don't have to make their way from the homepage to the contact us page and fill out a form. It's not laborious or anything like that. It's very streamlined. It's very simple. And in certain situations, they can't, but hey, can't be bothered is a good thing, right? And that sounds funny, but from an advertising perspective, what Facebook's doing with that lead gen form is where a lot of digital advertising is starting to go. And I'll tell you where you see it, and you may not realize it. We've all gone through and said, hey, best restaurant near me. Even if you're in the city you know well, right?
Or
best
even
Italian
text messages now.
Whatever
like text
be.
messages, you can
and
send
then
money
notice
and
over the last year or
tickets
two,
and all that other stuff.
You can book a reservation or a table right from Google without ever leaving that search engine page. You can do correct. Right. And there is money for advertising platforms where conversions can happen quicker. The quicker conversion happens, the happier the consumer is, the happier the advertiser is. Because somebody is
I
more
feel like
likely
I'm
to
like
do
listening to some
easier.
futuristic Mad Men.
If I say, hey, listen, jump through these
imagine Roger Sterling
your information or click this one button.
Stuff. Like it's just insane to me how minute things can get.
Yes, it's crazy. And what's very funny about it is even when I read best practice on these things and I attend what I'd call an industry trade show, or I'm just catching up, I'm experimenting with the new feature I find online, whether it's Google, Facebook, whatever. Does seem futuristic, and it's like, wow, this is super complex and advanced. But when you boil it down, it's super logical. It makes a lot of sense, and it's very simple. They're letting people get to where they want to go quicker by doing less. I mean, it's efficiency? Efficiency makes money. It's like if you had a car that can get from point A to B faster. So let's talk about the e-course and it's just as safe. Bit. People are going to buy it because it's easier.
So is Instagram
that's
in
what
e-course?
Digital advertising on social media and any other platform is becoming. How much quicker can you provide this information?
I mean,
sure. So Instagram's in the e-course in the sense that we're going to be advertising on Instagram. Facebook advertising oversees Instagram advertising, right? Facebook bought Instagram, not even sure how many years ago, for hundreds of millions of dollars. So to go through and advertise on Instagram the right way, you have to go through and use Facebook ads. And that's what we've done here. So in the entire presentation, the first half of it is me walking through a lot of the functionality and features on Facebook ads from a lecture-based functionality level. So I'm explaining to people in an educational setting, here's what it is, here's kind of what it does, just so that they have some context and are oriented on what Facebook advertising really is all about. And the reason I started off doing that is most people that have quote unquote done Facebook ads have just clicked like advertise with Facebook and gone through a really quick ad creation, and they've like promoted a post, right? Or done something similar. They've never actually gone through and done Facebook advertising. So I need to explain the context of what Facebook advertising really is and all that it can do before I can walk through and show them how to build the campaigns. And then the second half of the entire presentation, I go through and I take you step by step from setting up your ad account to selecting a campaign, to targeting, to scheduling, to budgeting, to launching, and then eventually even to the optimization and review of your ads. And I do it all within the platform of Facebook ads. And I've also created a lot of how-to checklists. So you can go through it if something is slightly confusing, because Facebook is somewhat complex. If it's slightly confusing, you can actually reference the presentation, and there's a step-by-step guide on how to do certain things.
Now, John, with all your experience doing this for all these years, is there anybody that you think is not the right type of business person to do social media advertising?
Nope, not at all.
Are there people out there that shouldn't be doing this?
Are you talking from like a business type standpoint, or like an industry vertical, or like an actual entrepreneur personality type?
Entrepreneur personality type. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan's mom should not do Instagram advertising. So which one were you talking about, Ismail? More like the industry and vertical?
I was talking about like the entrepreneur personality, because obviously we're in the same vertical with photo boothers, but certain people that have different mindsets. So is there a certain mindset that doesn't really fit for social media advertising?
I mean, I would say anybody that is overly conservative or frugal, if you will, should probably avoid it, because it's not active search. It's not like Google in the sense that you know exactly what people are looking for. It is an educated guess to start, and then a constant process of refining, learning, and optimization. That is what social media advertising is. However, at the same time, even if you are very frugal and conservative when it comes to spending money, you should be doing at the minimum a remarketing campaign on Facebook and Instagram. And the reality is, you're spending money in some way, shape, or form to get people to go to your website. Whether it's through Google ads, flyers, postcards, word of mouth, whatever it is, you're spending money somewhere along the lines. All remarketing does is make sure that those people that have already visited your website, probably because they're an interested party, they see your brand for the next X days, right? And in doing that, what you're really doing is trying to recoup your initial investment at a pennies on the dollar cost. So even if you are super frugal and that is your logic or rationale on how you approach business, which is fine by me, I'm more of an aggressive, high risk type of guy. You should be doing remarketing because it's best practice to the conservative mantra, if you will. So I really don't think there is somebody that shouldn't do it. I think everybody should do it. But at a minimum, if you really aren't all about it, you should go with the remarketing side of it.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about these platforms is that the power they give you. So even if you're frugal or if you're not frugal, you have so much power to focus on people or exclude certain demographics or turn the faucet up or turn the faucet down if you're having cash flow problems. It gives you so much power and control. It's pretty hard to find people that shouldn't at least, dip their toe in it. And I think if I look back to the beginning of this year, Ryan and I were talking about like, what can we do to really help people around the world in the photo booth business grow their business? Because the main concern people have is, how do I get more gigs? How do I get more gigs? And if you've been following us long enough, you'll see that we first targeted the active approach with the Google ad course. A lot of people bought that course, went through it, and did very well. But there's definitely people out there that want to focus more on the Instagram. Even without the ad platforms, they spend a lot of energy and effort building up their accounts, and they get people to book them through Instagram organically. So we thought that the ad platform there would be another good way to throw fuel on the fire. And I think if people, are really serious about growing their business in 2019, we've given them the two probably best things to focus on in the beginning of the year and hopefully grow their business. So I'd like to thank John a lot for putting in all the effort on the Facebook, Instagram course. I think it came out amazing. I actually started a lot of campaigns that just initially got going, and I can't wait to see the results. I'll share them with everybody. But John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Did you say how to gut?
For all the effort you put into that program. I think it came out amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. appreciate both you as well and Ryan for inviting me on and allowing me to do the presentation. And best of luck to everybody that uses the course. I wish them well, and remember to trust the data. Even if it goes against your gut feeling, trust the data. I did, Ryan.